Hey, well, I'm really excited to be here. Kristen Barnett, the CEO of a new company you're announcing today, Hungry House.
Yes. Yes. Hungry House.
It's an
Today's day
exciting
one.
day for you. I saw your announcement on LinkedIn and I saw the press release, and you described Hungry House as the anti ghost kitchen. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. So the anti-ghost kitchen to me really means that we are actively being intentional about some of the more negative sides of the ghost kitchen industry that the public has come to know. I feel like it's known for the Twitter stories about when customers found out that Pasquale's pizza was coming from Chuck E. Cheese, or the fact that you don't know really what the supply chain is of key ingredients in the meals you might be ordering through food delivery. And so Hungry House really was created as a reaction to that in seeking a way to flip those maybe less than ideal characteristics of the industry on its head and say, no, what it happens if we infuse transparency, if we tell customers it's Hungry House making the food, if we have a physical storefront that people can actually order at and see the kitchen and see the team. For me, that was the business I wanted to create. And I love the ghost kitchen industry. I love food technology. And I'm so excited to see it evolve. And I hope that Hungry House is a big part of driving that evolution.
I want to dive into what the model is and how it's differentiated. But you described in your post about how we didn't want to see another chicken wing concept, for example, because they just keep popping up like every other day. So you wanted to
Yes.
really kind of like battle against some of the, tired thinking within this model. So talk a little bit about that. What I think is
Yeah.
interesting is you have like featured chefs, you have the season concept. So kind of describe how you're doing it because this seems really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason I brought up the chicken wing kind of joke that I feel like us in the industry often refer to, oh, another wing concept, which is made even funnier by the fact that DJ Khaled literally just launched a concept called another wing. So here we are, right? That's the industry, and it makes sense. People are launching very simple, easy to execute virtual brands because more often than not, they're being licensed to a network of independent restaurants that are executing these menu items in addition to their core menu. So you optimize for frozen product, for scalability, for wherever you can, supply chain unification to make sure it's as simple as possible, and you have some hope of a unitary outcome across this network of restaurants. So if it's wings, that's great. It's really easy. However, what I felt like, was happening was we didn't see any really big culinary names playing in the ghost kitchen space. And I thought, why? Well, that's because there are so many constraints with the existing model in the industry, right? Virtual brands predominantly being launched by large companies are across these independent restaurant networks where being in all honesty, it's very hard to do quality control. I feel like there have been a lot of active conversations about this on LinkedIn and how important that is to really protect your brand, especially if you're a chef and your entire brand is built on quality and your perspective on food. So while it might be more fun for a celebrity to be able to launch a concept across all those restaurants, they don't necessarily have their brand affiliated with food. It's fun for customers, they get to engage in a new way, but that's it. However, obviously, ghost kitchens are all about food. And so I wanted to create Hungry House as the partner of choice for what I believe to be the next generation of culinary leaders who really have different career paths than in the past. We've seen that instead of, the path to the Food Network being cutting your teeth in a kitchen for the 10 years and the kitchen hierarchy and then opening a bunch of restaurants on your own. No, you could have like a really amazing social media presence where you're sharing compelling stories about a certain cuisine, where you're connecting with people who are learning from you. And otherwise using media to really promote new ways of thinking about food. So I wanted to create a model where, these great culinary minds might not be interested in actually starting a brick and mortar. And maybe that wouldn't even best serve them, right? Because they're really great at the media thing, at the photos, the videos, and the storytelling. Them working 15-hour days in a kitchen isn't going to be conducive to the ways that they shine most when it comes to really having an impact in food. And so we're partnering with chefs to really bring their signature menu items to life. We control it end to end. We do the sourcing hand in hand with the chef. We say, do you like this spec? How do
Mm.
you feel about this farm? we really try to be intentional about quality and then being able to share that out with the customers who come to the Hungry House website looking to purchase that food.
Okay, so just to kind of understand the model, you guys are
Yeah,
basically a facilities based ghost kitchen operator where you're basically going to own each facility and you're going to basically bring in the chefs and allow them kind of implement their menus and the employees are working for you. Is that kind of the operating model?
that's correct. Yes. So we control the operation end to end. It's our team, our inventory, our ingredients, our technology. Everything is the Hungry House system. It's a licensing model with the partner chefs from which we receive their menus and then execute in our kitchens.
And just for people who aren't super familiar with the ghost kitchen kind of continuum of different business model varieties, right? There's a bunch of them. And you kind of referred to the operating model, which a lot of quick service restaurants are using, where they're basically going to say, hey, or even some of the influencers like Mr. Beast, they'll say, hey, we're going to come up with a restaurant concept and a menu. And then we're going to like allow this virtual brand idea to roll out far and wide across the country, 300 like for
Yes.
Mr. Beast. And they're basically going to offer up this menu and the concept and the recipes to restaurants with excess cooking capacity in their kitchens. That's not what you're doing. You're not going to basically go to a bunch of
No.
hosted models, a bunch of restaurants with extra capacity. You're basically going to own every kitchen. That's what it sounds like.
That's correct. We're not going to license out to other operators. We very intentionally want to be the operator because we can then guarantee a certain quality level of quality that's not possible with the other models when it's more distributed. You don't know what's happening in those kitchens. There aren't necessarily integrated systems to report back to the chef or influencer you're partnering with. So we want to provide that security and control over the execution of their menu items in our model.
I appreciate the premium model, and I think that this control over quality by you kind of running everything and not putting it in the hands of simultaneously 100 or so operators you're not familiar with makes a lot of sense because that you're going to have transparency, you're going to have greater quality control. It does limit, however, how fast you can spread because it is probably a pretty capital intensive model. You've built or you have this one kitchen in Brooklyn, but to go into
Yeah.
Manhattan and then go into other cities, it's going to take a lot of capital, right? So are you
Yeah.
am I right? And is that purposely going to restrict in terms of how fast you can grow?
Right, absolutely. Obviously, we're thinking about growth and trying to be as low capex as possible. For me, what I'm really interested in as we think about our expansion are the types of real estate that can offer maybe a more supportive system. Here in the Brooklyn Navy Yard, we're in a food hall style setting. So our kitchen was actually already fully built out, ready to go. And then we were able to take it over. That for us is really exciting because for our in person experience, utilize kiosk ordering. We don't need a full dining room. And so, thinking about a food hall application, being on the ground floor of office buildings, those are settings that I think that Hungry House will really thrive in because a lot of our food is designed for lunch. It's accessibly priced, can also then translate to dinner too. But that's really what we're designed for and something we're really interested in as we think about expansion.
So you might have hybrid models where you go into a kitchen, but you're going to be running the show. You'll be running the operations. You'll have your employees, but it might not be something where it's an entirely new build out.
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. And so you do have a nice list of chefs and menus. You can talk a little bit about how you recruited this first season. You have Woldy Ray's, you have Martha Hoover. Talk about your first group.
Yeah, absolutely. So the focus for me was really working with people that understood the vision of Hungry House. Obviously, we had not launched yet. A lot of the designs of the website were purely conceptual in the beginning. And so I wanted to work with people that I felt like were thinking really differently about their career path. Woldy is this incredible Filipino chef. He has really well attended pop ups throughout Brooklyn. He's known for his signature menu items. Yeah, he's been running a catering business, not necessarily operating restaurants, and he's been able to do all of that. It made a lot of sense for him as someone who has really well developed recipes, but then, didn't necessarily know exactly what it would take to run a restaurant. And figuring all of that out wasn't necessarily in his career path or plan. Martha Hoover is a good friend of mine. I actually consulted for her restaurant group a couple of years ago. She's a true leader, has always thought very innovatively about the nature of the hospitality industry. If you don't know much about Pat and what she's built, check it out. Apocalypse Burger is a concept I've been following since the moment it was created in Indiana. The night that the pandemic, shut down her 14 restaurants and she decided to pause operations, she created this end of the world kind of revenge concept called Apocalypse Burger. And the art is just, top notch. The concept, the quality of the burgers, the house-made sauces. I knew it was a winner when I saw it. So for me, it was really going through my Rolodex in the industry, knowing people who I felt like had voices that others were paying attention to. They were movers and shakers themselves, people I really admired and respected. And I also felt like represented a variety of different models and career paths that I think are really inspiring to people.
Explain the season concept, right? Because when I think of seasons, I think, okay,
Yeah.
limited edition runs. If this is something like, for example, Woldy wants to do in perpetuity, does he come up on season 2, or how does that work?
Yeah. So seasons for us are really just a way to mark the ways in which our menu will change. For us, it is obviously the brands that we partner with might not all want to be in perpetuity. For me, I see a lot of interesting use cases in the future where we could launch limited menu runs that only run for a couple months. That could be a partnership between a CPG brand and a chef influencer, right? We could actually bring new products to market, but after a certain run, we could shut that down. For me, I want to introduce change in our kitchens. And rather than each season flip the entire kitchen, because that could be self-defeating to a certain extent and way too complex from an operational perspective, it's a way to organize that introduction of something new, whether it be one new dish from Woldy. So season 2, he drops, whatever, some new amazing Filipino dishes, or it could be a new collaboration in chef that we're featuring. Um, for us, it's meant to be malleable. Instead of thinking about it through the lens of seasonal produce, though, it's a way to tell customers that, hey, something big is coming, something really exciting, and you're going to want to try it.
We met when you were back with Zuul. I think we chatted a number of
Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
Kristen. You were the COO there. They are a company that got acquired by Kitchen United. I think one of the last times we talked, you guys had just kind of announced the kitchen stack, or your tech stack would kind of been made available for other companies to use. So speaking of kind of the tech stack, what is your technology
Yeah.
play, or are you a technology company?
Yes, technology is a big part of what we do. And I see it as the main catalyst by which we're able to tell these stories and ultimately serve customers. So technology really runs everything here at Hungry House. How we utilize technology is that we built our entire web platform on top of an API with a very commonly used POS that has integrations with DoorDash Drive and Uber Eats. So we're actually able to leverage those couriers to execute delivery orders through our native platform. Everything is like custom visually. Obviously, that was really important to us when we thought about how we would actually um, you know shape the stories of these brands, to display the menus, and to give each brand their own mini e-commerce page. That was an incredibly important architecture for us as we thought about building Hungry House. And then finally, technology, is a real way for us to drive, the customer funnel. We don't do any real in-person transactions, right? Everything is through the kiosk. We're taking orders online for pickup, we're doing delivery, and we're primarily acquiring our customers through Instagram, social media, and other promotions in partnership with the chefs we work with. So for us, this is a digital business. We will live on the internet, but always at the end of the day, infused with the hospitality of intentional design, great experience, and the brick and mortar that can really kind of bring it home in terms of a holistic experience.
When you saw that Zool got acquired by Kitchen United, what were your thoughts? I kind of felt like the industry is a little bit ripe for some consolidation, particularly among the platform
Yeah.
players. What are your thoughts of what that meant?
Yeah, of course. Well, I was ultimately there while that was going on.
Sure, sure.
So it was really exciting to think about the potential of just generally the additional resources for the Zool team to scale the vision that we'd always had. I'd known working at Zool that I'd always wanted to start my own company after that experience. So seeing the actual acquisition, obviously go through and come to fruition, I think that there are a number of different ghost kitchen models that are going to converge on a certain thesis of what works and what doesn't. I think in the beginning of the pandemic, they're like, a whole spectrum of different models going after something in food delivery, something ghost. And I think we're starting to converge on, no, this is like the facility model. Here is the tech play. Here is the operator play. Um, and so there could be consolidation among that. What I'm
Right.
primarily actually looking out for, and what I think is really interesting, are moves that the delivery app companies are going to make, like DoorDash and Uber Eats.
Mhm.
I think like watching their acquisitions tells you a lot about what they plan to do. DoorDash acquiring the salad making robot company. You
Right.
can see them getting into operations. Obviously, they have the launch of the DoorDash kitchens. And so you're just seeing a creep along the value chain. And I think that a lot of the M&A activity that will transpire in the industry is going to be that like value chain expansion. KU acquiring the Zuul tech stack, DoorDash acquiring a robot. We're going to start to see that type of movement, I think, to extend capabilities and ideally, actually make those companies profitable.
You guys do seem almost a counter narrative to the celebrity driven virtual restaurant movement where basically there's a few players out there basically accumulating relationships with large celebrities and saying, hey, we're going to launch. And it makes sense, right? Like if
Yeah.
virtual brands essentially is like a battle of name recognition. And once you put a celebrity's name on a DoorDash or like an Uber Eats app,
Yeah.
someone wants to buy a pizza associated with that person, makes sense. But do you think ultimately the celebrity driven virtual restaurant brand movement could potentially do some harm to the model? I mean, my feeling is that the food quality's not
Yeah.
there. It is potentially a problematic
Yeah.
thing down the road.
Yeah, so I think that the operating models that support those brand launches, the distributed network of independent restaurants that are usually executing them, is going to be the downfall. I also think that just generally, like, I don't know that it's actually creating that much value and truly innovating for the food industry. For me, these seem primarily just like small little tweaks of supply chain innovation and the service of, creating all these online accounts through DoorDash and Uber Eats, right? It's like almost a service based methodology rather than really creating new concepts.
And
So for
it's an
me,
intellectual property play too, right? It's like the
absolutely.
celebrity licensing their name for basically a restaurant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I'm not going to knock that. I do think the battle that we are currently in, just in technology more broadly, you see this playing out on social media, just everything. It is the battle for the best content, always. That's always what it's been about, right? And so these celebrities are definitely capitalizing on great content. But is it necessarily going to be executed in a way that creates a uh, true long-term value in a food brand? I don't think so. I don't think many of these are going to be around. I think that Mr. Beast Burger is an exception. I think there's been incredible investment in that brand. Obviously, what Jimmy Donaldson has is like unparalleled, but now there's packaging and they're launching it in London and all these things. But besides that, I don't necessarily see any of these really evolving to that level of truly being a restaurant and having like the infrastructure to support it, nor the scale, nor the kind of long-term engagement with the fans. And so, I generally think like all of this is just a bunch of noise that's happened in the last year. And I think that things are going to start to really filter out what works, what doesn't. Mr. Beast being one of them that rises to the top, but does, Hotbox by Wiz Khalifa always continue on, or Mariah Carey's Cookies? Who knows? There could be restaurants that continue to execute them, but in the question of core innovation for the industry, I don't feel necessarily inspired or excited about what that future looks like.
What's next for you guys? I mean, I think you mentioned in your post that you'll be looking at Manhattan in 2022.
Yes.
Obviously it depends. I think you raised a pre-seed round. A lot of it depends on
Yeah.
funding, but what's next for you in 2022, 2023?
Yeah. So obviously for us is we're going to be fundraising our seed round to fund that expansion through Manhattan. Um, the big things on our list is building that core founding team, individuals that are tech oriented, thinking about content, social media, the internet in interesting ways, but melding that with an extreme focus on operations. The second bucket is obviously investing in our tech stack itself. So building out our mobile capabilities, really ensuring that we have the infrastructure to connect with customers where they are, which is again on their phones. While our site is mobile optimized, it can always be better. And then finally is that expansion to different cities. For me, when I think about our model, I really want to bring be able to bring brands to the most attractive consumer markets in the country. Miami, LA, New York. Those are a big focus for Hungry House. I feel like with those cities locked down, really anything is possible when it comes to using our model to launch high quality brands that come from either chefs, celebrities, CPG brands. That's the type of world I want to create where there is true innovation. There are new things being launched, new stories being told. And ideally, we have that much bigger of a geographic platform to be able to do that.
Well, great. Hey, well, Kristen Barnett, the CEO of Hungry House, just announced today. Very exciting day for you. Thank you so much for spending time with us. Where can people find out more about what you're doing?
So you can check us out on Instagram at Order Hungry House or just on our website, orderhungryhouse.com.
And they can find you on LinkedIn too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks,
I'm
Kristen.
always talking about this stuff. Thank you so much, Mike. Really appreciate it.